Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into the Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Big week coming up. It is earnings week. A ton of companies to report on, including John Hartman from Ascend Wellness, who will be joining us tomorrow in a special live stream beginning at 4 o'clock. So lots to dive into as well. A little tough close there as MSOs hit the red break as the markets closed here today. So we'll dive into that with Dan Ahrens in a little bit and just ask some of the questions that some of the investors have had online pertaining to swaps, along with a number of other things, including Governor Ron DeSantis, who's doubled down on his take towards cannabis, opposing it, and we'll dive into that as well. So let's welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varell. Happy Monday. Good to see you.
Hey,
I know you're checking on how that closed. Little bumpy.
No, I'm actually checking on Kevin Sabet just tweeted that Ann Milgram actually didn't sign the DEA mandate to reschedule. So that literally just came out going into the close, which is why we went red. But I mean, this just leaves kind of one question for me. It's, does she even need to sign it if it's a proposed rule going to the office, going to the OMB, and then going into the register? So I think Kevin Sabet's tweet, there's a lot to be questioned. Definitely going to need to look into it more, but I mean, it's kind of going viral right now. But it's very precise. It's the exact words are that Ann Milgram did not sign the rescheduling order. But my first question is did Ann Milgram actually need to sign anything that would set the tone to go to the OMB and go further into the review process? That's yet to be determined.
How can you have an announcement like you had last week with this coming up?
But hold on. Let's take a step back. There was no announcement last week. The AP reported that the DEA was going to, or is that the DEA is ready to and will accept the recommendation that came from the HHS. There was no formal announcement from the DEA, and to my knowledge, or anyone's knowledge, it's not even been it's not even fact that there was something that needed to be signed by Milgram to take the next step in the process. So before we all get to speculating and God knows what else, let's sit down, get the facts straight, and we can dissect his tweet tomorrow before we have John on, or Wednesday. But that just broke, and that's why we saw cannabis stocks sell off going into the close.
Yeah, I think 100%. Who knows? Maybe there is something to do with the signature, but my gathering or my understandings is that no one really wants to put their name behind this. However, at the end of the day, we're going to see rescheduling, and there, the data is what is the most compelling part of it all. That's just not my opinion. That's some of the people that we actually have been networking with when we were in Washington, but it's just the reality is that nobody really wants to put their name behind it. So I'm curious to see just the importance of signing off there, but who can we reach out to? Eric Berlin, potentially.
I don't think anybody knows at this point. I don't think anybody knows at this point. I don't think there's anybody that could clarify. I don't think that there's anybody outside of the DEA that could clarify what Kevin Sabet just said. That's fact. And I really don't think it's a big deal because it's a very precise tweet.
What we should do is try to reach out for Don Murphy right now. We'll get into that. I'm going to reach out to him, see if he can log on to the podcast here at the last second. But let's jump into it. It's earnings week. A lot of companies that are going to be reporting earnings. As I said off the top, we're going to have John Hartman on from Ascend Wellness. They announced their latest earnings tomorrow. So we'll have him on at 4 o'clock for a special live stream. We're actually going live every day this week. There are a ton of companies that will be reporting, but anything in particular that you're going to be watching for the first company that's up, which is Ascend Wellness, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking into market growth. I'm looking into commentary about Ohio coming online. I'm looking into commentary around PA, the strategy in some of their strategic markets. If he's looking at Florida, which, I mean, we had Ron DeSantis come out and make a splash against the adult use ballot initiative that we'll get in later on the show. But there's a lot to like about Ascend. I mean, there's a lot that I've got ready to ask John as per the conference call and the numbers that come out in the morning. So looking forward to having him on and taking a deep dive through the earnings report.
Yeah, I know with some of our network that we've spoken about in the past, like this is a company that I think more people need to understand their story, but it is a very compelling story. But we'll learn more tomorrow with the CEO, John Hartman. In addition to Ascend, one of the premier private investment firms in the industry, will be reporting Chicago Atlantic. One of the highlights that they had actually for their most recent quarter was when they announced back in February a joint venture agreement with Silver Spike Capital with what they deemed as a transaction that will be a transaction that will be an accretive opportunity that will benefit shareholders. So they've had a steady flow of PRs over the last quarter. What can you expect, or what are you looking for? Do you know a lot about this story?
So I'm looking for the link. I'm looking for the language around any sort of increase or decrease with the dividend. Really what I want to talk to Peter Sack about, who's the co-CEO of the, or not co-CEO, co-president of the Chicago Atlantic REIT, is around the implied credit strengthening of their portfolio as it relates to the assets that are compiled in that portfolio, and really what Schedule 3 and the implications mean on a go-forward basis as we get more loosening as per the restrictions with institutional capital coming in, and really his outlook on the next 2 to 3 years of the sector as we're going to go through a paradigm shift if and when Schedule 3 does get actually put through.
All right. The Dan Conformer writes, is there a link for the earnings calendar for cannabis companies this week? If you have that, Anthony.
So I don't have a link, but, and I hate to plug him, but Alan Brockstein and New Cannabis Ventures, the only thing I go to his website for is his earnings conference call calendar. It's very thorough. It's usually correct, and I do use it as a resource.
Okay.
That's the best place to actually get all the earnings calls.
There you go. Shout out to Alan Brockstein. Hope he's doing well.
Also, Guap is alive, everybody.
He
surfaced this morning. I think he's actually watching the show, and he'll be back with us on Friday, but he is alive and well.
Guap, if you can hear me, buddy, welcome back. Hope the trip in Scotland was great. And I hope you didn't run into that stalker from Baby Reindeer from Scotland. Whew, I don't know if you've seen that on Netflix, but
I've not.
Okay. Schedule for later in the week includes GTI, Verano, and Village Farms on Wednesday. Then Thursday, the Cannabis, Jushi, Terracin, Trulieve. There is a long, long list of companies. Important to share as well. John Hartman joins us tomorrow. Who's joining us as well from Chicago Atlantic tomorrow?
Peter Sack, co-president of the Chicago Atlantic REIT, will be joining us right after John from Ascend.
And then first time on the podcast on Wednesday, George Arcos from Verano, along with Aaron Miles, once again, will be joining us. So that's going to be a great podcast. And then, drum roll, Zach George from SNDL joins us on Thursday. And then hopefully we can land.
Ziad will be with us for Friday.
He's confirmed?
Ziad's confirmed for the 11 o'clock stream on Friday.
All right. So we've got a big, strong lineup this week of earnings and executives from those companies that'll be joining us as we set the narrative this week and hear exclusively from a lot of these CEOs. So that is your earnings preview. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's now jump into topic number 2, Into the Wire. This is the TDR Traded Black podcast. Good to have you here on a Monday, May the 6th already. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Anthony Burrell, as usual. Smash that like button. Leave lots of comments. We're getting a ton right now, obviously, through that tweet. I reached out to Don Murphy, so if he responds right away, we're going to have him on, maybe provide a little insight and direction. But let's now move into our next topic. We've been talking a lot about beverages recently on our podcast, Anthony. And, let's face it, this is an industry that still only has 1 to 2% of the overall revenue pertaining to it. However, this is an industry or portion of the industry that you are knowing is going to grow substantially in the upcoming years. You've done some research pertaining to it, and there was some compelling information that you were sharing with me, that including how to buy some of this stuff online that kind of opened up my eyes and my jaw kind of dropped. But you want to elaborate off of that as to what I'm talking about and referring to?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of research actually into beverages, hemp-derived THC beverages. Luckily enough, you can get them DTC, direct to consumer online. Ordered a bunch of them, had them shipped to my house. It was quite an easy process. CANN was the first brand of beverages that I purchased. Bought about 3 flavors. Product was great. Tasted good. Packaging was beautiful. Box was nice. Came on time. Great product. So after the fact, this morning, I forget what I was reading, but something clicked. When I was purchasing these beverages from their website, which is a 5 milligram per serving THC beverage, they didn't check my ID.
Wow.
There was no age verification that was involved in the process. There was nothing that was stopping me from a barrier to entry from purchasing these products. And there was no checking of an ID like you would if you were to order alcohol from online by the delivery person. I could have been a 16-year-old kid with my mom's credit card that went on their website, purchased the beverages, and now I am a minor in possession of intoxicating cannabis, THC beverages. I think from a corporate responsibility perspective, that is completely irresponsible. They need to implement a gateway to check your ID and to age gate the purchases
100%.
ASAP. I won't buy another beverage from them until this is changed. It's completely irresponsible and it's going to backfire on the entire industry. So this morning, I went to Cantrip and bought a case of beverages from the Cantrip website to kind of test this out after it got the wheel spinning.
Yep.
Cantrip, I purchased the beverages. As soon as I checked out and the purchase was confirmed, they sent me a link via a KYC platform where I took a picture of my license and then I had to take a selfie to legitimize that that is me within the ID. Once that verification process was done, which took about 30 seconds, the order was concretely confirmed and the package was shipped out. So Cantrip, thank you for doing this. You're using best practices in a regulated CPG industry. Is on the way. I will do a review of the beverages once I actually have the product in hand. I look forward to trying them. And I mean, from a corporate responsibility perspective and the way that I would assume these companies should be operating from a business perspective, they're doing everything to ensure that they're compliant with laws and making sure that these products do not get in the hands of minors. So that was great to see. I have my product coming to me right now. I actually did buy another case of these products this morning just to make sure that I wasn't aloof and that there wasn't some sort of age verification process when I was doing it. It wasn't. I simply clicked credit card, click checkout, no questions asked, no nothing. It's on the way to my house again, just like the initial product that I purchased.
Is it 21?
I have to assume.
Is it 21 for the common age to purchase products?
I think it's 18, depending on states. As far as hemp-derived THC goes. Actually, no. Total Wine is 21 plus.
Yeah.
Just like traditional cannabis, hemp-derived drinks are 21 plus, regardless if it's Delta 9, Delta 8, etc. So I would have to assume that this also went into the calculus of Cantrip being picked up by Total Wine, which I can actually now buy in the state of Florida. I just went and purchased it today on their website to go through the process and make sure that everything was above board before purchasing it. Also, that's a gross assumption. If you're old enough to own a credit card, you're old enough to purchase cannabis.
Yeah.
I could easily online use my parents' credit card to purchase something, which I did as a minor plenty of times, as per like online purchases. So that doesn't really hold up.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting lots of tweets or comments regarding that tweet still. I've reached out to Don, yet to hear back from him. If we do,
Don's not going to have.
Yeah,
Don's not going to have clarity on schedule.
Yeah, I would love to get his at least a little bit of feedback and thoughts on basically that. But yeah, I hear your point. I'm just trying to reach out to what we can do at the last second here. Moving along, we got Dan Ahrens from MSOs coming up in just a minute. Christopher Brady, good to see you. Yo, Shad and Anthony, happy Monday. Sorry for being late. Woot woot. Schedule 3. Yes. Not sure if you heard the news, but there was a crazy tweet from Kevin Sabat that came out right before the 4 o'clock bell. And basically the result of this sell-off at the last few minutes.
So this is the tweet verbatim. It's big in all caps. I can now say with full confidence that the administrator of DEA, Ann Milgram, did not sign the rescheduling order, breaking with 5 decades of precedent and established law and regulations. 2 confidential sources inside DEA and another outside DEA with intimate knowledge tell me. Again, we don't even know if Ann Milgram needs to sign anything to take the proposed rule from her office to the office, to the OMB, and to the official register.
Okay.
So the fact that whatever he's saying, she didn't sign anything, we don't even know if she needed to sign something to get any of this done. Nothing he's saying is concrete. What he's saying can be true, and the AP breaking news was completely true and relevant.
This was all over BBC and CNN. As much as their ratings have gone down, they have the proper team in place to source a lot of this information out and to get through to the appropriate networks to have something like that on their platform. Yes, they have certain initiatives and narratives that they want to drive home to, like, skew to their audience, but they're not going to they're not going to put something like this out. This is what makes me sick about this industry. So we can't get out of our own way because there's so many trolls that run it.
I mean, he's not part of the industry, nor do I think he's someone that should be taken seriously. But in this statement, he could very well be correct that Ann Milgram didn't sign anything, which is why my first inclination is, well, did she have to sign anything in the first place?
Yeah, I know.
In order
At the end of the day, it's like text messages, tweets. You can obviously misconstrue it on how you it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. But big, starting a tweet off like that. How do you think people are going to react to something like that?
Well, they reacted end of the day by selling off.
Exactly. So anyways, we'll try to find out more information as the week progresses. Well, not progress, but even tonight, we'll have some more information for you guys tomorrow. Yeah. And if there's anything that we find out tonight, then maybe we can do a Twitter space. Jungle Java, please check the DM and TDR. Appreciate that, Jungle Java. And we'll have a look at that right now. While I have you here.
Yeah, Tom Angel's already all over it. This does not mean marijuana rescheduling isn't happening. The order may have been signed by a lower ranking DEA official. This is all semantics. Kevin Sabat, go jump off a fucking cliff. Like, this is
let's not go that far.
This is complete FUD. Whatever he's saying is probably true, but like I said, we don't even know that anything needed to be signed by her.
Yeah. All right. I was going to get into COA. Ahrens, let's actually skip the COA announcement. We'll save that for another day based off of this week's news or today's news. Let's now jump into Ron DeSantis from Florida. And as I said off the top, he's basically doubling down his stance towards cannabis. He plans to raise money to fund an opposition campaign against Measure 3. And this, needless to say, should be very, very interesting. I know Kim Rivers is going to have her work cut out, but she's definitely something or someone that is definitely prepared for something like this. But what do you make of this announcement? Because this is not from the DeSantis administration. This is from the Republican Party of Florida, correct?
Yeah. So Tom broke the story. Kudos to Tom. I mean, he gives us the information that we need, whether it's positive or it's negative. This is not DeSantis personally coming out against the cannabis industry. It's still a problem, though. And I think this is a formidable problem, and it's a formidable opponent. But it's going to be contingent on how much money the Republican Party of Florida can raise to combat this issue.
You think they will?
A piece of they'll definitely raise some money. And a piece of that is going to be leveraging Ron DeSantis's network and his political clout to raise money. So that in itself is a problem for the adult use ballot initiative come November.
Yeah.
Granted, there's still, and I got to look into the polling data, but there is a decent number of conservative Republicans in the state of Florida that are for cannabis. Also, in Tom's article, I think it's of merit to point out that the Republican Party of Florida is putting efforts together to combat this and the abortion ballot adult use initiative. So they're just combining the two. Cannabis could just be collateral damage here, and they're going after the women's rights adult use cannabis. They're going against the women's rights ballot initiative, which DeSantis has been much, much more outwardly spoken against versus the cannabis ballot adult use initiative. Either way, it's not positive. Either way, I've already talked to Brady and I've already talked to a couple of people. It all matters what kind of resources they can gather, how much money is raised, and then what they do with that money. So, I mean, it's something that we need to watch very closely. But it's not good for what we're all fighting to get, which is adult use cannabis in the state of Florida.
I think it is important to share, though, when we were in Florida a couple of weeks ago, the amount of interviews that Kim has already done on radio and television stations towards Measure 3. If they're going to be up for this, they're in for the fight of their life, because a lot of money already invested pertaining to Kim and the network of people that she's put in here. And I think the most important thing, as we keep saying time and time again, is data. And last I checked with you and Brady, when you were talking last week, the approval rating in the state of Florida is just over 60%, correct?
It is, but I don't think it should be understated the amount of influence that somebody like Ron DeSantis will have on a conservative and a Republican base in the state of Florida. If Ron DeSantis gets very, very vocal against it, that is going to sway people that could, I'm not saying it's going to sway everybody, but I mean, being realistic, that will sway voters that might have voted in favor of it.
So the 60% that would vote in favor for it right now, you can't answer this question, but it's just
No.
if we were to identify that demographic, do they follow the space closely? I'm sure there's a lot that do. I'm sure there's a lot that know very little about it, but still approve. To your point, yes, if you're going to win an election, you don't go after the strongly agree or disagree. You go after the people that are right in the middle, right?
No. I mean, do the math. What's the current population of Florida?
2 million?
Okay. So yeah, there's I think there's 800,000 and change patients.
Right.
I figure they're all mostly yes. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. As far as the numbers go, I mean, we'll do another segment on Wednesday or Friday and break this down.
Yeah.
From an actual viability perspective, it'd be good to have someone that's actually leveraging the polling data. Maybe I'm going to reach out to Smart and Safe to get somebody on to just create a baseline as per where we stand right now. But I mean, it's not as big or as detrimental, I think, as everybody thinks, but it is something that needs to be closely watched as per how it's going to affect us.
Good point, Christopher. Don't forget to include the retirees.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You know what? That concludes Into the Wire, outlining the biggest headlines in cannabis and a lot of other things as we bring you last minute information and news here today.
Yeah.
But no, it's Monday. It's time for MSOS Mondays with Dan Ahrens. Ahrens, cue the music. Good day, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I didn't like the close of the market in the last 5 minutes. I don't know what the heck's up with that. But
yeah. Well, we're trying to make sense of it. I'm sure you probably saw a little bit of the emotional side of Anthony and I those first 20 minutes, but
I respect that, though.
Yeah, it's just I look at this and I don't want to sound like I'm talking at both ends of the spectrum when it comes to mainstream media, because there are some things that it's weak with certain investigating, but at the same time too, when you look at large networks like CNN, NBC, BBC, and they're putting this all over their banners, you don't think that they're going to do a little bit of due diligence and make sure that this is news that, 1 week is a major headline like this, and then some guy on Twitter basically puts out a tweet thinking none of this is happening. This is a joke.
Yeah, it's a total joke, but it's a sample of the space that we're still living in.
It's just all retail driven.
I think it needs to be said that he didn't say it's not happening. It's the semantics. He simply said that Ann Milgram did not sign a piece of paper that got advanced.
But again, I will say it's the way. Bring up his tweet. Can we bring up his tweet?
I'm blocked by him, so I don't have any access to it.
Hey, Anthony, I also didn't sign it. So I have no idea, correct, like you said, if she's supposed to sign it. I think this is
it's semantics. He's playing games.
Was there a signature line for her? Was she supposed to sign it?
We have no idea. Nobody knows any of the facts. And I'm willing to bet Kevin's smarter than to cause market manipulation. Whatever he's saying is probably true, but we don't understand the bearings of it towards the decision and the process that's being put in right now.
But because this is a great time to bring up the fact that if anybody's listening thought this was going to be easy, if they thought it was going to be a nice, or some people thought it was going to be a big, violent move to the upside. We're going to go up a few 100% in no time. Yeah. And then they didn't see that happening. well, okay, maybe it's going to be a slow, steady grind straight up for the rest of the year. No, it's not going to be that either. It is going to be so damn volatile every time something like this comes out. I'm looking for the official DEA notice, the Federal Register to come out. I think that's going to be a nice pop. But don't get too excited. Don't get too excited because there's still going to be the next thing that's going to say, oh, wait, there's a public comment period. Oh, wait, there's a lawsuit. There's going to be so many different steps.
Yeah. JJ's right. So I'd ask Shane Pennington. That's actually not a.
Also, just using common sense, I would assume that anything that's final or anything that's enacting actual changes would be signed off by the head of the DEA, the head of the DOJ, which is Merrick Garland or Joe Biden himself. Like I said, I highly doubt Ann Milgram actually needs to put pen to paper on anything regarding this decision.
Let's reach out to Shane Pennington and Matt Zorn at some point tonight or tomorrow to see if they can come on to kind of clear the air here. But one thing that you guys were actually highlighting before we actually started today's podcast, Anthony, you were speaking to some of your network up in New York, but I think it's putting things into perspective about certain companies in the space. But you gave an example as to like what TrueLeave was it TrueLeave or GTI where they were trading at last August.
You got to look at it like this. Third week of August, HHS news broke. That was, let's say, the beginning of the excitement and of the momentum and the building of the story for rescheduling. TrueLeave that week was $3.50.
Yeah.
As TrueLeave sits today, it's at $12.18. You can say, oh, it was beat up. That was historic lows. That was whatever. I don't care what you say. It's up 360%. If not, no, it's more than 360%. It's about 360% since that HHS original announcement. Meaning if you invested in it, then you'd be up close to 4x on your money.
Yeah.
So
this is the point of people that were disappointed that we only saw, let's say, a 10% increase. Some stocks, did the complete reversal, basically lost their gains the next day after that pullback on Wednesday. However, I think there's some valid points. I think you agree with that, Dan. To sit here and say, like, this is what's part of the process. We're now in it. We're probably going to see some bumpy sides to this, but this is the game we played and chose, and you either embrace it or get out, right?
Yeah. So last week was a great deal of volatility. I didn't like the give backs on Wednesday, but was I totally surprised? I was surprised just how deep it was. But overall, we gave back about half of Tuesday's gains. And it kind of makes sense because we didn't have, we kind of got confirmation that it was real, but we didn't have the Federal Register.
Correct.
And like everybody's contemplating now, we didn't have Ann Milgram's signature that no one knows if it's actually required or not. I don't think it is. And so there's going to be a lot of these stops and starts. I'm still pretty positive on all of this, and we'll take advantage of opportunities as they come. And hey, look at today. What was our biggest loser of the top 10 was TrueLeave, which is based on this Kevin Sabat tweet and based on Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
So take advantage, people.
Getting a lot of comments right now. Kevin Sabat, it was a hollow announcement with no.
Well, but also we had an official statement from the DOJ.
Yeah,
that
made it real.
That legitimized the AP announcement. The DOJ, the Department of Justice.
Bingo. That pretty much is, comparing the two sources. If you want proof as to how much credibility is involved in this, I think that is a great example of what you just outlined, Anthony, for sure. One thing I want to bring up too, and I want to start with a couple of questions investors were asking online related to swaps in your ETFs. So first up, Dan, do these swap counterparties actually own these underlying stocks? Do you want to address that?
Probably. No, I'm being a little funny here because we've been coy with this question in the past, but let me tell you why.
Okay.
So when we first launched these funds and we were negotiating with The New York Stock Exchange, who worked very hard for us, with Bank of New York Mellon, a very conservative, one of the largest custody banks in the world. The SEC asked us to get a legal opinion, all this stuff. Our fund in the Bank of New York Mellon, we cannot touch the stock. We cannot have ownership of the stock.
Okay.
So what that means is those swap counterparties, they don't have to tell us. We can't demand that they own the stock to back up the total return swaps. That's why we're coy about giving answers about it. We can't control that. Here's the big but, though.
Okay.
We're talking about big banks, very large brokerage firms that have risk departments, that have lots of lawyers. And once they own more than 5% of a stock, they have to file 13G reports. We, as a fund, we file 13F reports when we own stock over a certain percentage. Now, those aren't in real time, like our holdings files. They are, end of month, end of quarter, depending on what the ownership is. So, come on. I've seen people freak out online, like back when we had them with Cowen. Oh, look, Cowen owns so much of this stock. Well, that was actually just the stock backing up the swaps we had with them. And then the same thing happened with Nomura. So yeah, Nomura does those filings. So they're making it obvious that they own the stock. Can I get online and say, can I guarantee that they own every share backing up every swap? I can't, only because we're not a party to that.
Gotcha.
We cannot demand that they own it. We can't make them prove it. But through things like 13G filings and my conversations with them, yeah, of course they own it. And they have very conservative risk departments that I've had to talk to.
Yeah.
That leads into another thing. People say, oh, can I guarantee that they're not loaning it out? No, we're not a party to the transaction. They can do whatever the hell they want. Do I think they're loaning it out? No, I really don't. Because they've told me they're not loaning it out. I'm not going to follow up every week with them and ask them, are they still not loaning it out? No, because they got balance sheet issues.
Yeah.
It's a high risk thing. If they're giving us a derivative swap and then they're loaning out the stock that's backing up that swap, and then we have to redeem, hell no, they're not going to do that, in my little opinion. But once again, that's why we're coy with people about answering some of these questions, because I am not a party to it.
Okay.
We can't touch the stock. So I think that's real important for people to understand. But you can see the 13G filings. Nomura owns a hell of a lot of multi-state operators right now, mostly for us.
I can't tell you how happy I am to have Guap back. I like big banks. I cannot lie. Good to see you back, buddy. Love the comment.
Yeah, so I know the cruise in Washington last week, Noah and Mackenzie. Any tidbits from that trip or anything you could share from Washington?
Yeah, that wasn't me because our home office, where Noah and Mackenzie are based, and other people, is Bethesda, Maryland. It's right down the street. So they got to hook up with the great Don Murphy.
It's awesome.
And go around. It's interesting. So I asked for Noah to send me some, cliff notes, and something we talked about before. There was a senator that doesn't know anything about rescheduling. And I've talked about this before. You know what? It's not their sandbox.
Yeah,
that is.
Do you not think they should know
branch of government.
Something about it, though? Should they not know a little bit about it, though?
I'd like to think, but no, it's not their sandbox. Different branch of government. They have zero cares about it.
Yeah,
the ones that are really involved in cannabis, they might know about it. Yeah. But hey,
the way I see it, as long as it has no implications, on them getting reelected, they don't care about it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. What's a senator's number one goal once he gets in office? To get reelected.
Staying in office. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said.
So, there was at least one Democrat senator who is actively working against Schumer to keep safe banking moving. Because Schumer doesn't seem to keep it moving. And they're the ones that launched calls into the American Bankers Association and asked them to keep pushing for safe banking along with a Schedule 3. So that was some interesting stuff. Okay. It's not cannabis isn't a winner issue for all the politicians. It's a winner issue for certain politicians. Other politicians, depend on who their who their support is, who their voting base is. They might want to act a little bit more like DeSantis. That's all. So
I woke up this morning and I saw Ron Johnson saying, I'm against rescheduling, but if you're going to make it legal, and he understands that he can't really combat rescheduling, he's like, you might as well pass SAFE and have them using banks.
Yeah.
That was a real strong statement. I like that.
That was a very strong statement. And I mean, that corroborates a lot of what we saw firsthand in Washington. Politicians off the record saying, well, I don't support the rescheduling of cannabis. I can't openly speak about cannabis because of my constituents, but I would vote yes for safe banking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're getting somewhere. There's just not a lot of public optics that these guys can go out, or people, guys and gals can actually convey, because they're scared of their constituents.
They are scared of their constituents. They're playing games. There's a group of Democrats who don't want to support safe banking because they're claiming it's not enough. They want something grander and more robust. And there's a group of Republicans that are going to be against anything related to cannabis, except what you said with Ron Johnson, which is good stuff.
Mr. Vickers writes, did you guys get to convince any senators or Republicans in D.C.? Here's the thing when you go to Washington. You're never going to convince any senators or congressmen or congresswomen. All you can do is come with your facts and provide information, and hopefully, in the end, they have an open mind and learn something that they were unaware of. That's the most that you can do. All you can do is just carry the conversation going and see where it goes from there. And the only way you do that is you go again and again and again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I do want to outline, as much as there's all this chaos, one of the best performing ETFs since the beginning of the year is MSOs. Up, I think it's around 40%, if I'm correct, year to date.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but maybe not quite that much, because it's up and down every darn day. And today was another red day for reasons we discussed. But
Shad is right.
Yeah, people. Zoom out just a little bit. I don't know if you remember, I did this interview at the very beginning of the year on Yahoo Finance. And I said, hey, I think cannabis might be one of the very best industries, one of the very best sectors to invest in for the calendar year. And I remember a couple people, commenting or retweeting it. Are you high? So now we're headed down that path. I don't like to get too excited before I actually see it, before we get through the year. But zoom out, people. We realize that we have a long way to go to make up for the last couple of years. But
hey,
your fund goes up 10% last week. Take it. Don't complain that didn't go up enough.
I'm looking right now. You're up almost 40% on the year.
Okay.
39.05 to be exact.
We'll take it.
Shad
We'll
was
take
right
it.
on the money.
And everybody, remember, the fund's performance is just a reflection of the holdings that it owns underneath.
Yep.
Nothing more, nothing less. And we're doing.
Oh, sweet. Ricky Williams and Jim McMahon on CNN. Is it this upcoming weekend or the last?
This upcoming weekend, I think.
Is it? Okay, great.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything you're exciting or looking forward to going into earnings this week, Dan, with any of the companies?
I love that these Q1 earnings come in so quickly after the Q4 earnings. And I mean, come on, are we going to expect anything out of GTI except strong earnings? They do it quarter after quarter after quarter. And we have some strong markets that have had a little bit more time to continue ramping, like Maryland, for instance.
Yeah.
So, the focus is on everything else we're talking about. It's on Schedule 3. It's on access to capital. Something else we need to talk about is uplisting. I had dinner with the head of listings of ETFs for New York Stock Exchange last week.
Interesting.
And I got reminded, but trust me, they're a different group than individual equity listings.
Okay.
So they are not. They had no great insight for me about the ability to uplist GTI or Curaleaf or anybody else. Now, I've been talking to those companies though, and they've been talking to the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. But well, not I don't want to misspeak, not GTI in particular, but Curaleaf for sure.
Co-op's listening closely. He's right. Go on.
But my friends at the New York Stock Exchange, who we were very closely with, we've done lots of bell rings there. They promised me that we will be the first cannabis ETF ringing that bell, and when the time is right. But they reminded me of how hard they worked in that last week when we were looking to list MSOs, the ETF MSOs, which launched an entire year after the fund YOLO. Yeah, the New York Stock Exchange was jumping through hoops, working their tails off to get a rule filing amendment by the Trading and Markets Division. They had to push that through the SEC. All kinds of things were happening last minute. They were making exceptions. They were working hard for us. Their attorneys were working for us because they wanted badly to list our MSOs ETF. That was kind of breaking some ground. It was using more swaps than an ETF had ever used before on regular individual securities. And no, they pushed hard. That's just an example of, I think the New York Stock Exchange wants to list these stocks. That's all I'm saying. They were working real hard for our fund.
I absolutely mimic that sentiment. I think they absolutely do. And the NYSE as well as the NASDAQ, I mean, as soon as they can. I mean, I made a comment over the weekend that on Twitter that 90% of the cannabis companies could uplist today, and that I didn't set any context, and I meant to put 90% of the cannabis companies listed today meet the capital requirements to list on the NASDAQ or the NYSE for the most part. So, I mean, if and when they can, they will immediately. It'll be an instantaneous process almost.
Well, there's not a rule or regulation that is holding back the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. It is a comfort and feel and all those things. So yeah, with this rescheduling gets a little bit more official, there's a good chance.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. It's a Schedule I drug right now. We all know it shouldn't be, but I mean, they have corporate governance responsibilities, and they have compliance, and they have to mitigate risk. Listing companies that deal in the business of a Schedule I drug probably is very high on the list of risky things you can do when running a stock exchange. I can appreciate that. But I definitely look forward to them uplisting if and when they can.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, some good convos regarding the NYSE over the last 7 days. Aaron Miles and shedding some light too, knowing that he used to work there. But, just like anything like Washington, keep the conversation going, right?
Yeah.
Dan, appreciate the time. Tell Noah and Mackenzie, welcome back. Hopefully they had a great trip and, like I said, learned a few things. But I appreciate you shedding some light on what they learned, and most importantly, just obviously clarifying some of the swap conversations that are happening online. And we shall see you, or probably be speaking to you back and forth on Twitter regarding this tweet. So we'll try to see what we can drum up. Hopefully you can do the same. And hopefully in a matter of time, we're singing Kumbaya and all is well, right?
Of course.
Thanks, this guys. Too shall pass. Good to see you, sir. And we'll check back with you next Monday.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Sir.
No shortage of drama in this industry. All right. I don't want to fixate on this. We'll do what we can. We'll reach out to our network. As usual, people, please, if you can, leave comments, smash likes, positive or negative. Go ahead.
Just an ending comment.
Okay.
And this is from Weed Street 420 on Twitter. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer remarks on the DEA rescheduling of cannabis and the reintroduction of the COA Act. If Chuck Schumer is publicly stating that the process for cannabis rescheduling is in motion via the DEA and via the OMB, and I'm sure via the OLC, that's all you need to know.
I think the biggest thing for me is the people that follow this space. They've been following it for years. This is predominantly retail investors, and how they've not learned enough through some of these semantics over time, like just to have a quick.
So
Why would you sell off like that? If you really believe in this industry, if you really believe in it, why would you sell off based off of a simple tweet like that?
So, I mean, if you're looking at the entire sector at large, I mean, Trulieve was the biggest laggard of the day, down 8.79%.
Yep.
Everything else was a nothing burger. I mean, Cresco was down 3.7. Jushi was down 3.5. Air was down 1.5. TerraSend was down 2.3. I mean, they're down, but they're not down.
Okay.
Like, if this was a serious thing and Schedule 3 wasn't happening, these stocks are going down 50%.
Yeah.
Easily.
I hear you, David Benz, and what you're saying. However, like, what are we doing then? It's just like we're trying to obviously create a platform to get thought leaders on to provide you with like feedback, information, and some of these people, I'm just like,
if Air goes down, I mean, I'll just say it out loud. If Air goes down 10% tomorrow because of Kevin's tweet, I'll be buying it.
Yeah.
100%.
Brett Sloan, so I didn't get a chance to reach out to Dan regarding what he thinks of SNDL. But like I said, we're going to have Zach on Thursday. So a lot of our SNDL crew, if you guys can, once that live stream is done, if you guys could push that out to your network, that would be greatly appreciated as a way of saying thanks for the stuff that we do, and vice versa. We say thank you for the work that you're providing to get this message out there. As usual, positive or negative, whether you like, don't like the tweets, some of the content we produce, we love to get your comments. We love hearing your feedback. If there's anything that we miss, by all means, we'll answer any question appropriately. If there's certain questions that we can't answer accurately, we'll reach out to our network and make sure that we get everything done and fed back to you properly. So smash that like button, share this video with your network, leave comments, want to take this viral. And don't forget, we have launched our New Lake research report on the Baked In newsletter. We have a number of MSOs that we're going to be launching in our research reports over the next 2-3 weeks based off the latest earnings season. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. We very much appreciate it as we start to build more and more of an audience and database. And let's build this community. We appreciate all the feedback. In the meantime, enjoy your afternoon, Anthony. And back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock with John Hartman, CEO of Ascend Wellness. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.